Hello, and welcome to World History A, Unit 4. This is one of my very favorite units, and I know I probably say that every time, but I love this stuff. And first of all, we're going to start with the Age of Discovery. And the Age of Discovery was really started because people during the Renaissance found out that they could, during the Renaissance and after the Crusades and all of that, found out that they could get spices that tasted good in other places besides Europe, right? Europe was where spices did not taste good. And so they wanted to get those spices. I went to Turkey last summer, and one of the big things that I wanted to see was the Spice Bazaar because I wanted to experience all of the spices that they had, and it was amazing to just walk through and just smell all of the wonderful spices that they had and to see why these people wanted them. So that was super exciting for me. And eventually, with all of the people trying to go explore all of these new places, Prince Henry the Navigator started kind of a school of navigation, and he wanted to teach people how to go to these places. And the idea was that they would find the Northwest Passage because they accidentally ran into America on their way to India, right? And so what they wanted to do was to be able to get through America with the Northwest Passage. And that was the case clear until the 1800s, clear until Lewis and Clark, okay? So this was a really, really big deal. But when they couldn't really figure out how to get a Northwest Passage, they figured, well, we may as well claim the Americas while we can. And I actually read a book about Jamestown, Santa Fe, and Quebec, and about the different people who were conquering at this time. The English were conquering, the French were conquering, and the Spanish were conquering. And there were different reasons why they were conquering and what they were trying to gain from their conquers of these people. Okay? So they eventually came up with the Joint Stock Company, which means that they had, a company that they ran out of America, and that brought them sugar, tobacco, and cotton to Europe. And then they would take textiles, rum, and manufactured goods to Africa. And Africa would take slaves to the Americas. And that was how it worked for a really, really long time. So this is what was called the Columbian Exchange, okay? And it worked, and it stayed afloat for a really long time. Eventually, the English were the ones who really dominated in the colonies, and they decided that they were kind of the ones that owned the colonies. They were having a war with France at the time, and the war came into America as well, and we call it the French and Indian War. And yeah, and it was just an offshoot of the war that was happening abroad. That was a bigger war, and it gave the colonists some time to fight and to see what it was to fight, which was a good thing overall and ended up being a good thing. But and they kind of decided that they didn't like. So then after the war, then England decided, well, now, we've spent all this money on the war, and we should tax the colonies because they were a big reason why we spent all this money on the war. Not the only reason, but they were a big reason why we spent the money on the war. And so the colonies came up with the idea of, well, we're not there to say who's going to give what, to say who's going to tax us, and so we shouldn't have to pay any taxes. And so they went ahead and rebelled against the British, and that's why we eventually left the British rule. And we will talk about that in Unit 5. Okay, thanks so much. I'll talk to you later.